Yeah, 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 come and take a look at the snow. Bright white as far as your eyesight goes. Come and take a look at the fields of snow. I'll just get my coat, then we're good to go. Come and take a look at the lake. Let's have a quick skate before it gets late. Come and take a look at the frozen lake. Put your clothes on, mate, don't make that mistake.
Greetings, holiday shoppers. There are now exactly 100 shopping days left until Christmas, and you know what that means, friends. It's time for another episode of Christmas Creeps, your one-stop shop for holiday movies and TV shows all year round. My name is Joseph Wade. I'll be your host for this evening. Here with me tonight is Johnny Five, the human robot. Welcome back, friend.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. It's been a while, buddy. What's been going on?
Well, I mean, I've been doing the scavenger hunt, so I've been... You know, if I tell you where I am, it kind of ruins the scavenger hunt.
Oh, okay. Well, by the time this releases, hopefully that won't be a problem.
We'll see. It's a tough one this year.
Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Bradford is away on secret mission. Can't tell us about it, but we do have a ringer tonight, friends. Another scavenger hunt. Yes. We're into the Burr months, which also means we're into our favorite time of year, which is the spooky season. The pumpkins are out. The pumpkin spice latte is in the Starbucks, and that means it's time, friends, for Home for the Horrordays. And we have a very special guest for us to kick off Home for the Horrordays this year. Returning guest, Mr. Christmas Movie himself, Alonso Duralde. Alonso, welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back on.
Yeah, well, there's a very good reason why we've got you back tonight. You have a brand new book to talk to us about. Why don't you go ahead and tell us, everybody, what the deal with this is, your book.
Sure. It's the revised and expanded edition of Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. The original run of that book was in 2010, but that was 15 years ago. So it turns out there's a lot of Christmas movies that came out between then and now. So this is an updated version with a ton of new entries, and, keeping a lot of the old stuff as well. And, it's if you've not read this book before, it's a great place to start. If you have the first edition, there's so much that's new in this one that you won't feel like you're double dipping too much by having both.
Yeah, it's a great resource, too, if, like us, you happen to be a Christmas podcaster and you need ideas for episodes. This is the perfect place to start.
There's so many of you. I think if I just wrote the book for Christmas movie podcasters, I'm locked and loaded.
Right. Well, I do want to mention, you did show us a little bit of the revised book in advance, and I do want to talk about something that you say in the foreword of this book, which is that a fellow film critic suggested that you start a Christmas movie podcast, and you kind of blew him off. And that was a long, long, long time ago. And, 10, 15 years later, there's this huge boom in Christmas podcasters. And I feel like we're partly responsible for that. So if we've stolen any bit of your thunder, sir, I apologize.
You know what? That is 100% on me for not responding to a good idea when I heard one. I thought, who is as nuts as me that would want to listen to a Christmas-related podcast over the rest of the year? And then along came enough people to tell me exactly who those people were. And so, my own loss for not getting in there on the ground floor. But I'm excited that shows like yours and so many other ones exist, and it was part of the reason why I knew that there was a reason to do a second edition, because I think people love Christmas movies and they love watching them throughout the year because there's just too much good stuff to try and sandwich between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
That's definitely true, and I think at least for our part, we got in on the ground floor thinking that it was a joke. And now here 11 years later, we're still doing it. And I may or may not have been drinking too much of the Kool-Aid because I'm all in on Christmas movies now. I've poisoned myself with this podcast.
A podcast is a commitment. You are signing on, week in, week out for a thing. And so if it's going to be about, pimento cheese, you better really have a lot to say about pimento cheese.
Right. It is definitely a lifestyle choice, as they say.
For sure.
Well, one question I do want to ask you is, I noticed I think I tried to do a rough count, and you've added maybe 70 or so new films since the original publication came out. Where do you think this sudden explosion in holiday movies comes from?
Well, it's a combination of things. I mean, and technically I'd say it's more like 100 if you count like a lot of, there's a bunch that I did sort of short, like you should also see this. But, I think Hallmark plays a big part in that in terms of sort of not just tapping into an audience, but sort of letting other people know that that audience exists, And so I think that looking at the history of Christmas movies, things kind of come and go in waves. I mean, there really wasn't such a thing as, I think, quote unquote, a Christmas movie in the way that we think about it now, really until TV starts. You go back and you look at movies like Christmas in Connecticut and Miracle on 34th Street, and they're opening in the middle of the summer. They're using Christmas in their plots, but they're not being sold as, hey, it's December, you want to come see this. But then when they start getting rerun on TV during the holiday season. And then, of course, with classically It's a Wonderful Life becoming the sort of wallpaper of 1970s television in December, that's when people realize, okay, so wait, we can do a film that's themed on Christmas, release it at Christmas, and then it'll become sort of this perennial where every December we can pop it back onto cable, we can sell a new Blu-ray, whatever like that. So I think more and more in recent years, that's become kind of this is a marketable business plan. This makes sense for us in a financial way, and there's an audience for it. And so then the challenge became, well, look, Hallmark has the innocuous romantic comedy really sewn up. So what else can we do? So that's when you're seeing like the rise of the R-rated Christmas movie, the rise of the rise of the horror Christmas movie, or like Christmas movies with black casts, because Hallmark was certainly not going to go down that path before 2020. And so, I think it has kind of led to an expanded idea of what can be a Christmas movie, and also what the shelf life of a Christmas movie can be.
In a certain sense, like with everything involved with Christmas, it just became a sound business decision to build it out as an industry. They're not making all these movies because they're sentimental. Like, they get ad revenue out of it, and exactly
in an era where cable television is all but dead, the fourth quarter of the year, Hallmark is killing it compared to pretty much everything but news and sports. So I think that's sort of, it's sort of like, oh, look how well these Marvel movies are doing. Let's all do some superheroes. I think there's in a much smaller level, and with obviously smaller budgets, there's a real, hey, let's get in on this Christmas thing.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can speak from experience because, even my own mother will count down the days until, the Hallmark Christmas marathon starts in July. So I hear about it too from all sides. And I think just for our part, that was one arena that we kind of decided early on that was not for us, because there are people who genuinely love Hallmark movies, and you know what? More power to them. I will let them have that.
Yeah, that's a pretty well trod ground at this point in the podcast universe. Although I think the Hallmark guys were pretty brilliant about their approach, being like, one of us loves them, one of us likes them, and one of us despises them, and that way, however you feel about these movies, somebody's got your back.
Right, and just professionally, I look at the Hallmark and think, wow, they took what we did and did it for Hallmark movies. Why didn't we think of that first? You know what? We said it. We're not doing that. And so they can have it, and I'm fine letting them have that.
See, it's like me and the Christmas podcast. It's life is a series of choices, and you just have to go.
Yes. You gotta ride that horse as long as it'll take you.
Exactly.
So you mentioned that like the glut of Christmas movies, like the scope of what a Christmas movie has expanded over the years. And I noticed in this new edition of the book, you've added, several new classic films that have kind of entered the mix in the conversation of, these are our alternative Christmas movies. For example, there's, a couple of Spielberg movies in there, 1941 and Catch Me If You Can, have kind of crept in there. Like, what is it about films like that people have suddenly kind of latched onto as, oh yeah, this is definitely part of the Christmas canon now? Like, what makes Catch Me If You Can suddenly a Christmas movie?
I mean, I think it kind of depends. I think the people we're talking about here is, me, because it's my list.
Well, yeah, of course. But it's us collectively.
Exactly. The royal we has decided that 1941 is a Christmas movie. No, I think that there are movies where there's like one Christmas scene because, it's set over the course of, the full calendar, or there's like, a few throwaway, things in the corner, and you don't necessarily have to lock into those. But I think there are movies that come to Christmas for thematic reasons, for, contrapuntal reasons. I think you get that a lot in horror movies. The idea of like, oh, it's this holiday of joy and peace and, a pure white snowbank. And let's see what blood spray on that would look like, So I think with Catch Me If You Can, that was when they kept popping up in conversations, online, certainly like as a Christmas movie. And I went back and looked at it, and it doesn't fully go hard on the Christmas stuff in a way that I would normally, say, oh yeah, you got to check this one out. But it's there. There's kind of this recurring thing where the DiCaprio and Tom Hanks characters are both lonely in very different ways. DiCaprio because he's a con man on the run, and Hanks because he's this dedicated FBI agent. And they call each other every Christmas, and there's a bit of a taunting to it, but there's also a bit of I just need to talk to somebody because you're the only person I know that I can reach out to and have this conversation with, And then the final arrest of the DiCaprio character is also set against a very sort of snowy, beautiful, traditional French country Christmas. So, those elements are there. And then in 1941, because you're dealing with the aftermath of, Pearl Harbor, everything is decked out for the holidays, and there's this very lengthy, elaborate sequence where they have recreated Hollywood Boulevard in 1941, on the Universal backlot, just festooned with period-appropriate, holiday greenery and decor. And who doesn't want to see that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's even one we've personally talked about bringing into the Christmas Creeps, forum at some point. I think Jonathan's brought it up several times. Jonathan, you're still there with us, aren't you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just having a good time listening.
Okay, good.
Oh, you don't want me to talk just because I'm on a podcast? Jeez.
Well, I would like you to talk about 1941 for a second because personally, I think it's pure chaos. But I think you've mentioned it several times before.
It pops up on those list of movies that are like technically Christmas movies, but people don't. There are certain people that are fun to. Certain bears that are fun to poke that get poked by saying that certain movies are Christmas movies, basically.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
It's Christmas adjacent, Now, I asked this, have you seen the director's cut or only the shorter version?
I've only seen parts of it. I really wanted to actually see it. That's kind of another way of bringing it up, so I have an excuse to watch it.
Oh, well, that explains that. I've only ever seen what's on the Blu-ray edition. I don't know which version that is.
I think it's got both because what I discovered in looking at, I had actually never seen it, but because it kept coming up in sort of internet chatter, I decided to take a look at it for the book. And what I discovered is that apparently they had they screened the director's cut in like Dallas, where Spielberg had boffo, really successful sneaks of Jaws and of Close Encounters, and it died. It died. The audience didn't care for it at all. And so a panicky Universal goes in and decides, well, it needs to be shorter. And so what they do is they take out all the setups for these elaborate, kind of slapstick physical gags. So the movie is all payoff, but no setup. And it's not as funny when a guy falls off a thing if you don't get the first 3 steps of why is he climbing that thing? Why is that thing rickety? What knocked that thing down? And so if you don't like either version, I get it. I'm not going to die on the hill of 1941. It's a mad, 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 mad world kind of comedy, and that's not to all tastes. But I will say you have to see the director's cut to at least get an idea of how these jokes were, the context for them and how they're set up in the framework of this before everything comes collapsing down.
I remember I saw 1941 for the first time during like the first outbreak of COVID when I was locked in the house, and I decided I'm going to watch all the Spielberg movies start to finish. And I hit that point with 1941 where I did not know what was going on or why. And I think I may have been a little bit, under the weather, obviously, but maybe I need to give it a fair shake with sober eyes and a podcast to dedicate to it.
It was a weird turning point for him too. So
right, yeah, because that was right before Raiders, correct?
Yes, yeah. But Jaws and Close Encounters had been so popular that he was walking on water at that point, and then this movie came along, and it was like, oh, okay, no. And the early reviews are vicious. Like you could tell they were just waiting for him to like blow it, and so it winds up getting put on next to things like New York, New York, and One from the Heart, and, you know, Heaven's Gate, like these really sort of pricey auteur-driven debacles that kind of led to the end of the new Hollywood and had put studios back in charge of things for better or worse. But, you know, I think it's better than its reputation.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. I see. Now I think we really do need to dedicate an episode of Christmas Creeps to 1941. So, folks, I guess stay tuned for that, because now Alonso's got us hooked. I've one last question for you about the book, and then we'll move on to the meat of the episode here. Since the first edition in 2010, have you noticed any new Christmas genres or trends that have emerged? Like I know that your book has 9 separate chapters and 9 categories. Is there if you had to add a 10th category of like a new genre of Christmas movie, what do you think you would add? What have you noticed?
I kind of feel like everything sort of falls into, you know, I mean, because the categories are pretty broad. Things like, you know, comedies and tearjerkers and action movies and horror movies. I think there's just maybe a little more of an attempt to, I had a conversation recently with like, oh, well, you know, what about sitting together, you know, with your family on the couch and enjoying it together? I'm like, well, that's not going anywhere. They're still making movies that work for that. But I think now there's this realization of like, oh, we can do a hard R comedy or a hard R drama and have it be steeped in Christmas and still find an audience. So like there isn't just this knee-jerk notion of like, oh, Christmas movie has to be about Santa Claus and has to be about, you know, a child's faith or whatever. Like it can be about a whole bunch of different things. And that was certainly the case in 2010, but I think even more so now you're seeing a lot more people kind of make that leap of like, yeah, Christmas can be a backdrop. Christmas can be a commentary or a counterpoint or, you know, a metaphor or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be a thing that's aimed at children.
That's certainly true. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And, you know, then at the very bottom, you have, you know, the Shane Black movies, which are just about Christmas lights. That's all he seems to care about, are just where can I put pretty Christmas lights?
And he's got a new one this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the one with Mark Wahlberg is a Christmas movie.
Oh, I hadn't even clocked that one yet. Okay, great. All right, well, stay tuned again for that.
Shane Black has a type.
He absolutely has a type, and that's, you know, twinkling red and green.
Totally. More power to him.
More power to him. So now we have to pivot to, I guess, the meat of the episode, which you selected to talk about this evening. The Adult Swim Yule Log, which I also notice is the film that kicks off chapter 6 of your book.
Well, that's strictly alphabetical, but you know,
well,
it is a new edition from last time. It just popped up a few years ago and has already even had a sequel. So,
right, and so for the folks at home who may not be familiar, tell us about what Adult Swim Yule Log kind of is.
Sure. So a few years back, you may recall a viral short that started on Adult Swim and then made its way around the internet called Too Many Cooks. And it was a sort of fake opening credit sequence for a 90s family sitcom of your sort of Full House school. And it started off very kind of, you know, as a well-done imitation and a little innocuous. But as it proceeds, it starts getting a little darker and a little more like, did David Lynch direct this episode? And by the end of it, it is truly horrifying. And people found it really kind of just, you know, like rivetingly off-putting. So the guy behind that then sort of came back to Adult Swim with a, hey, I have an idea for a feature now. And the feature was to basically, he originally wanted to have 2 hours of Yule log footage and then suddenly have the movie start just to see who was paying attention. Casper Kelly, by the way, is the name of the director here. And it wound up being a lot shorter at the intro, but this is a thing that starts off looking like your traditional televised Yule log. But then you hear a car pull up outside, and then you hear someone in the living room, like talking on the phone and vacuuming the rug. And then you hear other people show up, and then really horrible things start happening. And they pretty much keep happening for the whole rest of the 90 minutes.
Yeah, it escalates and escalates to the point where this is essentially a slasher film where you have the characters that are, you see your established type of characters, you know, the guy and the girl, the killer, the hapless victims who just wander in off the street. And yeah, we are kind of locked into the shot of the fireplace for most of the film until it, until it pivots away from it.
Yeah, we're eventually sort of liberated from it. The idea is that we're getting the POV of the camera that somebody has set up in the living room. But then, spoiler, once one of the killers involved here turns out to be a sentient log that can fly itself around the house and leave the fireplace, then the camera goes with it.
Right. But I think also what's interesting to me about this is you also start to jump back and forth between timelines, because it'll wipe, we'll get a wipe dissolve across the screen and we'll see the same cabin from the 1950s, and then it'll wipe again and we'll see the same cabin in the 1800s, and there's a very sudden kind of slavery component that creeps into the film. And
the different eras will sort of overlap on each other, which oddly enough is a strategy that Robert Zemeckis used in the not very good film Here last year.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, I thought about this, and then I had to go look it up, and I noticed that the Yule Log came out during pre-production on Here, so there's a very good chance somebody working on Here saw the Yule Log.
Oh, no, actually, the Yule Log predates it. You're thinking of Yule Log 2, which came out in 2024, but this first one came out in 2022. So they had a big jump on Zemeckis.
Well, yeah. No, what I mean is, while they're in pre-production, they're planning Here.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Somebody must have. So in my head, I'm thinking, I really hope Zemeckis saw this and was just really angry that day. Came into the office and just started tearing up the place and saying, God damn it, we've been scooped.
Why didn't I think of this?
And not to mention what the Yule Log has over Here is that it has the good sense to, I guess, leave the tripod at a certain point, because once it becomes kind of a real film, it really takes off.
Yes, and it's again, I think there's a real Lynchian quality to a lot of this film. You've got, there's a tiny man who lives in the fireplace. There's an alien that sucks the organs out of you. There's a cult. There's a lynching tree. There's just like all of this confluence of bizarre things, some of which are dealing with historical trauma, and some of which are just odd and off-putting, and they're all managing to find themselves in this cabin.
Right. And I also noticed that I think the alternate title for the Yule Log was The Fireplace, which to me just sounds like such a Lynchian place or location. And you actually go into the fireplace at one point, that it is a real location in the events of this film, and it's maddening. It is absolutely maddening where this goes. And I want to ask Jonathan right now, when I told you about this, Jonathan, I did say to you, oh, you can put this on in the background. It's a Yule Log. It'll be fine. And that turned out to be very much not the case.
Not at all. No, I have seen I've seen until where the sheriff shows up before. And I remembered it when I started putting it on. I was like, oh no, I do remember this thing. Because I remember the maid going across. So I was like, oh no, I actually pay attention to this morning. So that's why I watched this morning. And the thing that was craziest to me was it took me several times of the camera making cuts before I realized, oh wait, no, this is just a normal movie now. We're no longer locked into this static shot.
Yeah, the too many cooksness of it all kind of fades away, and it just becomes a real horror movie at a certain point. Yeah, which I absolutely appreciate. I think this Casper Kelly guy is going places.
Well, and I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the sequel, but I think it's also really great. And in fact, what he does in the sequel, it's much more of a Christmas movie than the first one is, because this one is, apart from the Yule Log and the fact that he's shooting Yule Log video, is not technically Christmas, I guess, but the second one is super Christmassy. And in fact, it vacillates between being a horror movie and being a Hallmark movie, point where the lighting and the aspect ratio changes, because those movies have, people have commented, they have a lot in common. You can be a young woman whose car breaks down in a mysterious small town where everyone's up in your business, and there's all these things you can put on a list, and they could either go Hallmark or horror depending on how you portray them. And the Yule Log 2 really finds that space where it kind of it leans into one and then the other.
Okay, so depending on the time of day that you entered the small town, it determines what kind of film you've entered.
Oh, yeah, the lighting will change on you in the middle of a scene. It just depends on if something terrible is happening or not.
Yeah, it just depends on who's in the tow truck. Is it a hunky yet emotionally vulnerable guy, or is it Leatherface?
Exactly. Like Drea Clark, who co-hosts a podcast with me called Maximum Film, always says, I want to remake Holiday in Handcuffs as a horror movie without changing a single word of the script.
Oh, my God. Oh, man. It can be done. I believe it.
I think it's doable. I think it's all right there on the page.
You know, it's still, it reminds me of, you know, the one time we tried to watch a Hallmark style film, and Jonathan and I landed on the idea of Westworld Wonderland is what I'm thinking of. But.
Yes, no, I've been quoting you guys on this for years. I think it was one of your guests said, why isn't there a Hallmark style Westworld where women can have like chaste romances with blandly handsome robots?
It's such a good idea. And like then the twist could be that one of the robots is actually just a regular guy who thinks he can sneak in and get with some lady. Like
weirdly enough, there was a movie that was on last year where it's this whole town where the gimmick is like, you know, it's a small town Christmas, but like people can't figure out, like these two women go and they fall in love with these guys, but they can't figure out, are the guys plants? Are they like hired to woo them, or are they really falling in love with them? And they don't take it anywhere interesting, but I thought, oh, there's a germ of the Westworld idea here that I really wish they had run with.
I mean, if I swear, if Hot Frosty can get made and be popular, I feel like we have a shot, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. The door is wide open at this point.
So maybe I really need to just dust off my copy of Final Draft and get to work. Well, I don't have a whole lot more to say about the Yule Log, guys. We've kind of touched on everything that really goes on in it. I mean, there's the aspect of the film where, you know, the two groups of people come to the cabin because they've been double booked on Airbnb, which, you know, that happens. But then the
also
second
the premise
group,
of Barbarian.
Yes, absolutely. But the second group just happens to be true crime podcasters. Like you had to throw that in there, of course.
But they're there to interview somebody who had been involved in an alien abduction, which, you know, comes into play in its own way in this story.
Right, naturally, every little like monkey wrench that gets thrown in pays off at the end.
Yes. I absolutely love the amount of like the show is smart enough not to wink at you when it throws all this absurdity at you, like, oh no, it's the lynching tree. That's also sacred to the native tribes of the area. And also there might be a cult. And also there might be aliens. And also. And
what I think is what I really respect about this, like that Casper Kelly was able to pull off. Apparently, Adult Swim has this sort of like slush fund where they can greenlight projects that are a low enough budget without having to go through, like, you know, the Warner Brothers bureaucracy or whatever. And so they basically, with some money they had in a drawer, were like, yeah, fine, go make this movie. And so they made it completely under the radar. The studio didn't know about it. They didn't promote it until like right before it aired. And even then they kind of promoted it as though it were an actual Yule log. So, you know, it was just this kind of, it was like when Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig made that Lifetime movie. They wanted to not have it be advertised that they were in it. They just wanted people who tuned into Lifetime on Saturday night to be like, "Hey, is that Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig?" You know, but that's kind of what they did with this one. They just sort of snuck it into the programming, and only a day or two later, people were like, "Oh my God, did you see this Yule log thing?"
Like David Zaslav didn't know it existed until halfway through the runtime.
And then he made them put his face on one of the victims.
Of course, yeah. God, that Wizard of Oz thing just blows my mind.
Oh, the gift that keeps giving. The more I hear about it, the worse it sounds.
I do hope, see, it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, like, yes, that's terrible that they're monkeying with the Wizard of Oz, but I do also hope that they take that sphere technology and use it for a more deserving film than the Wizard of Oz.
Well, what I would like would be for somebody to start making films for it. And I think maybe there is one. I think Darren Aronofsky might have done like a short that was specifically designed for Sphere. And okay. I think that's cool. I think, you know, like whenever, you know, if it's the, you know, Monsanto 360 vision at Disney World or whatever, like, yeah, if there's a new way of showing stuff, then shoot something for that format. Go to Coney Island and shoot This Is Cinerama on the roller coaster, you know, but like, don't stretch an existing movie out of recognition to make it fill this football field, you know, screen, because that's just bananas.
unless you're going to pick a film that's already stretched to the breaking point. Like, I'm already thinking, like, what would a movie like Speed Racer look in this setting? And honestly, that may be the film. If you're going to do anything with any film in the sphere, might as well be Speed Racer.
It's what they were thinking about all along and didn't have the chance to do.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. Hell, play the Yule Log in the sphere. I would pay $50 to see a real life flying log going over the crowd. Come on.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I'm a little gun shy about blowing up things that were intended for smaller screens, because I just saw the IMAX presentation of Prince's Sign of the Times, which the audio was great. Like, it is just booming through those Dolby speakers, and that was amazing. But man, that image barely looked good in a regular theater. On IMAX, you could practically see the pixels, and it was a little eye disturbing, but it was great to listen to.
Well, that's what you go to a Prince feature film for, right?
Yeah,
of course.
Now, do I want to see Under the Cherry Moon in IMAX? Hell yes.
Of course, yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm looking through my notes here to think of, is there anything else that we need to discuss about the Yule Log? Alonso, what do you want people to take away from the Adult Swim Yule Log? Folks that may not have seen it or want to see it, I guess.
I admire the chutzpah that it even exists, and I think that Casper Kelly is a talent to watch, and I'd say, like, they're both pretty short. Do Yule Log and Yule Log 2 branching out as a double feature, make a night of it, because I think they're very different tonally, but they are both, they are working a sort of level of creepy and unsettling that's, I think new and different in the Christmas sphere. Like, it's maybe not new, but it's certainly not the humdrum.
Right. As many Z-grade, streaming slop style Christmas movies as are out there now, this is absolutely a cut above all of those. Like, as much affection as I have for something like The Killing Tree or Santa Jaws, I recognize that they are working with a much lower, I guess, set of skill and talent. not to put those down, but this is definitely like a cut above.
Yeah, I'd say any Krampus movie that isn't the Michael Dougherty Krampus movie, this is better than that.
Yes, by a wide margin. Oh boy. So, I mean, that's, unless Jonathan has any final thoughts, I think it's time to move to the crankometer for Adult Swim Yule Log. J-Man?
Not really. No, I enjoyed this thing thoroughly. It's just it even though I kind of knew what was going on, it still surprised me because I wasn't fully aware of it. And even if you already know the gimmick, it's still fun to watch because it takes such a stupid premise, several stupid premises, and is, in this case, smart enough not to wink at you. It just runs with it. It's just, there's a killer log. What of it?
Yeah, we're leaning in.
Right. And I guess the only other thing I will say is, if we did have enough prep time, we would have watched the sequel to have that to talk about as well. But, we'll save that for another episode.
There you go. Put a pin in it.
There we go. We'll put a pin in that for later. So let's jump over to the crankometer, which is our patented XY axis for rating Christmas movies. The X axis is how Christmassy a film is, from -5 to +5. And then the Y axis is how good the film is, the quality quotient, -5 to +5. So, gentle friends, Alonso, Jonathan, how Christmassy would we say the Adult Swim Yule Log is?
I have to say, rewatching it last night, it's maybe like a -1, just because it's not set at Christmas. It is the story of somebody who was filming a log video that he can later sell as a Christmas time Yule log thing. But beyond that, there's really nothing seasonal in the film.
Agreed. Yeah, it's tenuous at best. Only counting because they released it, around the holiday season as a Yule log. It doesn't misuse any of that. It's not really what it was intended to be. So I understand that.
Yeah, going into it, it's just like, oh, Yule log, it's a Christmas thing. Oh, this wasn't really that Christmas, though.
But then I guess they rectified that with the sequel. So
we'll
save that judgment for another day.
My complaint is more just that they called it Yule Log and then it wasn't that Christmassy. That's why I would dock it a point, give it -1 rather than just be like, it's whatever.
I mean, I don't know the full story here. Maybe that like he sold them on an idea of a movie called The Fireplace, and then they thought, hey, what if we just air it in December? I don't know.
That's possible, yeah. And you could also have just said, why don't we just put the killer in a Christmas hat, and that would have solved the entire problem, or a Santa hat, excuse me. Give him a Santa hat. Now it's a Silent Night, Deadly Night, and everybody's happy. Then now the quality quotient, the y-axis. How good is Adult Swim Yule Log?
0 to 5, or sorry, -5 to +5? Or?
Yeah, -5, +5. If you were just completely neutral on it, that's 0 right there.
I'm like a 2.3. I think that it's given it. I when I'm reviewing movies, I always like to think what was it aiming at and what does it hit? And I think it hits pretty close to what it's going for, and it's rather ambitiously throwing all of these bizarre things into this stew and doing it all with fairly limited means, but obviously a lot of imagination and integrity. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, I think somewhere around 2 or 3. Yeah, because it's working with a limited budget and it shows, but at the same time, okay, that's not that bad. Like in terms of other movies that we rated 5, there are other movies that like I will actually absolutely just rewatch that whenever. I don't care. This one, it feels like has a limited shelf life on rewatching it, maybe. But I did enjoy my time with it. And I would recommend other people watch it. So a 3.
I'm good with a 3 as well. I think what Jonathan said is correct. Like once the idea, the gimmick, the joke kind of lands, I don't know how much I'm going to want to rewatch a film like this. Mostly because it's some of the weirder aspects are, I don't want to say not my thing because I enjoyed this, but it's not something that like I would seek out as a traditional film, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Although strangely, I think part of my take on it now has to do with a lot of the lore that is established in this film does pop up again in the sequel, strangely enough.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
nice.
We may need to reserve our judgment. But I do want to say, like, I respect the hustle and the drive that went into making this in the first place. It's actually a very good a testament to just go out and create something because, if you ask permission, they're going to tell you no.
Yeah, basically.
So on that note, I think, friends, the Adult Swim Yule Log is not a resounding success, but definitely a secret success. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that people are going to stumble upon every year and be like, hey, have you seen this?
See, now that we live in the age where, most folks don't have cable TV anymore, I don't have access to Adult Swim, so I don't hear about these things until months or even years later. So thank you for bringing this to my attention, at least.
Oh, good. My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, friends, that's the Adult Swim Yule Log is a -1, +3 on our crankometer. So mark that on your chart, and we will soldier on to more and greater things here in Home for the Horrordays 2025. Alonso Duralde, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
My great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and where can our listeners pick up your book?
Pretty much anywhere you buy books, be it online or your friendly neighborhood brick and mortar, or hey, bug your library, get them to get a copy. I'd be delighted with that as well. But yeah, it's the revised and updated edition of Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas, and you can find my reviews at The Film Verdict and listen to me on a bunch of podcasts, including Linoleum Knife, which I've been doing with my husband Dave White for going on 15 years now. Also Maximum Film on the Maximum Fun Network, Breakfast All Day with Christy Lemire over at YouTube. And I pop in regularly on Deck the Hallmark to talk about non-Hallmark, non-Lifetime Christmas movies.
Oh, wow. You are a busy man, sir. I respect it.
I spend a lot of time at this kitchen table talking into this microphone.
It certainly gets a workout. Oh, one last question. When does the revised edition of this book come out?
It is. If you are listening to this episode right when it drops, it's out in a couple of days. It'll be on shelves on Thursday, the 18th. I think some people who pre-order online might even be getting it a little bit early. But it's going to be available throughout the holiday season and beyond. So check it out.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to that in our show notes so you can go order your copy today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that'll do it for Christmas Creeps, friends. If you have anything that you would like to send our way, it would be it comments, questions, recommendations for future episodes, you can send those to us at xmascreeps@gmail.com. We're also on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, all those fun places. Not on Twitter anymore. Get that out of here. But we will also put a link to our Discord channel in the show notes. Come and join the conversation where we talk about all kinds of crazy things. Brad has all kinds of recipes that he's sharing. We do music leagues every once in a while, all kinds of fun stuff. So come check that out. All right, friends, that's Christmas Creeps for this week. I have been Joseph Wade here with Johnny Five the Human Robot and Alonso Duralde.
Thank you.
Wish y'all a good evening. Creep it real, and we'll see you in September.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas.